Good afternoon, traders. It's Simon at Kairos Capital Markets with the weekly review of Ausdollar, Pound Yen, and Euro Dollar. So last week, we was long the Euro Dollar. It initially went off on Monday quite nicely. We'll go through why that actually failed overall. You should have made a little bit of money. You may have lost a little bit of money, but I'll explain to you what's going to happen most likely next as well. So to start with, this is the daily chart of the DXY, and as you can already see, you can see that Friday still ended as a doji. Although most other dollar pairs did actually lose, like the dollar, it gained strength. It was more of other pairs just losing strength rather than dollar gaining strength. So I'm just sitting on my hands to see what really happens, because this isn't a strong buy case in my example here for me. I still think we'll have a pullback, and when we look at other dollar pairs, we'll see why. Come to the weekly chart though, you can obviously see as well that where there's multiple high tests here, and all of a sudden a little candle up higher. This isn't really what I'd call a great buy. For me, I need a bit more confirmation than that, and I'll just, like I said, just sit on my hands for the moment, and we'll see how it all plans out over the next couple of weeks or so. So now, when we go to the Australian dollar, for example, here you can see we've got multiple low tests all along here. So I'm still expecting this move up at some point. 75 is still my target to look for this trade if I was to take it at all. It's not the greatest in the world again, because too much indecision here. And when you come down to the daily chart, you can see prices track between the 735 level and the daily 50 EMA at the moment. So we still have to break the daily 50 EMA. When we do break the daily 50 EMA, we've got a downward sloping trend line that's been in place for most of this year since February. So 75 is really going to be the cap there. If you break 75, it'll then pop up to 77, but we need to wait and see. Likewise, if we break down below this level here of say 72, let's say 73 for example, with decent volume. Just going to flick the volume on for you guys. Sorry about this. Yeah, so when you see we get a decent break of the volume downwards with decent volume, that would be quite nice to see. Now, when we look at the euro dollar, for example, now it was a bit of a strange example here where we expected it to go, it was. And again, we get this bearish engulfing candle here. It looks quite good, but it's only stopped at the key level. Hasn't really stopped any further than that, and now we're just grinding down a little bit lower as well here. So it's still indecision in the dollar in what it wants to do. I know the euro has broken down on the lower time frames on the triangle we was looking to trade, but it still hasn't actually made a full bearish move as such. And to highlight this situation as well, the volumes are low here. So although you had a rejection volume, which was low volume, the next candle there's even lower volume, so the move down wasn't really valid. And then the bearish engulfing candle here, although slightly bigger volume, you'd expect decent volume there. You would. I know it's slightly higher than the rest, but you just expect decent volume, and that hasn't come into the market yet. To me, it doesn't really give me confidence to carry on selling. To give an example, there's a very similar candle here. The volume is up there, this level here, and the volume on this candle here is much lower already. And again, this candle here, quite high volume. Even this bearish engulfing candle, not the most convincing, but it's still higher than that one there. So for me personally, I'm not particularly interested yet. If, however, it comes down, comes back up and gives us a nice test of 1.157 area with high volume on the retest, that would be different. But until that happens, I'm just going to sit on my hands. When we come down to the lower time frames on euro dollar now as well, I will show you what happened and why. Let's just delete that for the moment, and I'll show you clearly what happened. So each time we rejected this lower trend line, we had high volume. So as we said last week, volume there, high volume there, high volume for the day there, and higher volume for the day there. Although it's lower volume, it's still high volume for the day. Now, I was expecting a break to the upside of higher volume, you see. And as this trade was developing here, this high test here was created on decent volume there. So this is the first rejection of this area where we had high volume. So for me, I knew this would come back down again. I was expecting another retest here, if I'm perfectly honest, but obviously it did break down. As you can see, it broke down all the way through, no problem at all. And if each subsequent day as well, it travelled down with higher volume. Now what I do notice here is we broke down on NFP, super high volume, didn't go nowhere. It didn't go down, didn't go up, and in fact when you look at the higher time frame, the 4-hour chart again, sorry guys, the 4-hour chart, here we are. we're just left with a giant high test doji type candle. So for me, the sellers didn't really actually win anything at all. Obviously the buyers didn't win clearly, but the sellers didn't win at all. So this is just another lot of indecision. And then the next candle here, this bullish kind of high test, but you know, the volume was quite high there for the day. Obviously, didn't go nowhere. Then the bearish engulfing candle, no volume. Next candle, no volume, no volume. Now this little doji here, it's got a medium volume, it's not bad. So now I'm just waiting for this candle here to finish. We've got another 2 hours left on this. This candle will be a higher volume candle because it's the peak of the day already now for the euro dollar. And I'd be expecting there to be some form of low test, just purely because there is no volume whatsoever in this area. There's no volume to bring it down any further at the moment. To me, it appears market makers are just pricing you in lower to make you think it's broken down. Purely because when you look at the higher time frames, we are looking at still a kind of bullish setup here at the moment. Like I said, not as strong as it was last week, but I'm definitely not a bear just yet. Pound yen. So pound yen, we highlighted saying it will most likely head down towards the 144.5 area, which I circled perfectly there. So this is Monday's candle at the moment, and what I'm looking for really is some form of rejection before we actually say it's a buy market. Now you can see now what happened here. We had a little rejection of the daily 50. A bearish engulfing candle with mediumish volume, not the greatest in the world, but it did break down. Small candle here with slightly lower volume. So for me, the volumes are adding up, but they're just not that great at the moment. So like I said, we want to see now decent volume with a rejection there, kind of like this candle here as such. You've got a very high volume for a doji candle, and this inside bar setup here was over 2 candles, quite a nice with volume, a good setup there to actually take long. So I'm just waiting for the moment to take a short-term trade here. I'm not confident about the long-term trade because clearly we had a rate rise with the pound last week and the pound broke down purely because people actually priced it in, but the Governor of the Bank of England said that he wasn't very confident with the Brexit negotiations and how it would plan out. So although the interest rate was expected to rise, you'd think the currency rate would appreciate in value. It never did because of the comments of what he said after the actual rate rise. So that's what my concern is with going along the pound. Now we'll go to the lower time frames for pound yen. I've not looked at these today very recently because obviously it's normally pretty much a mess on pound yen. If you can wait one moment, there we are. So we've got a lower high here at the moment. We've come back down, and you can see already now that price is rejecting this first band I've got here at 144.2. So we're just going to see what happens. Clearly, we're not going to take a trade long here at the moment because you can see it can pop through and come back up. We just want to wait and see what actually happens here. When we analyse the candles again, you can see this bearish engulfing candle was with a higher volume, which makes sense. This bearish engulfing candle was with high volume as well, and you can see here that it just didn't like it just fell down quite nicely. So the volume does add up to being a bearish pound. So don't be surprised if you start seeing some pound pairs still weakening this week as well. Okay, guys. Any questions? Give me a shout. If not, take care, and I'll speak to you soon.